Hide this. And we are live now. So hello, everyone. We have figured out the technical difficulties, but my name is Zakia Ringgold. I am here. Wayne will be joining us in just a second. We are coming to you live so that there he is. Hello, Wayne. How are you?
Good. Happy nearly December.
Nearly December. Absolutely. And so I've been drumming this up all over social media today, telling people we're going live. I've gotten so many messages about what's happened in Ghana. So I said, I don't know what to call it. So we'll just call it What Happened in Ghana.
And it's not like Vegas. No, it's what happened in Ghana.
Definitely not like Vegas. So let me pull up our chat just to see that people are able to join. If you are joining and you were able to capture any of the videos we posted, the pictures we posted, feel free to leave us some comments down below. We will definitely respond to them. But we wanted to really take some time and discuss why this trip was so important, some of the things that I learned, how Wayne is doing over there in Baraka Shea Butter. We call him the man that never sleeps, but in a great way. So Wayne, can you tell us a little bit about Baraka Shea Butter?
I can, but can you give me a second, Zakia? Can you send me a link that I can share on my Facebook? I just realized that I don't think it's shared on my personal Facebook.
So. It's on Baraka Shea Butter's page. So if you click on there, yep.
Let me go there then. I am learning my way through this, but fortunately I have a great teacher, and she's named Zakia, if any of you know her.
Yeah, you can share it right from Baraka.
When I met Zakia, I guess in Dallas a little while ago, I knew nothing about this and live stream and everything, and she's been so amazing at helping me through it.
Awesome. I'm so excited. It's been a really, really exciting journey all the way through, and then Ghana was like icing on the cake for me for sure. So it's really been a mutually beneficial experience.
It has been great, and when you say icing on the cake, because I know one of the things in Ghana was you thought we just never stopped to eat or take any breaks. We just went.
Very true.
But you guys were troopers, because we were all over the place. We're all over the entire country, from east to west and north to south, and bad roads to worse roads, and even the odd good road.
Absolutely. And so we have some people checking in live. We have Antonio over on YouTube saying beautiful spirit. Lisa has put the link up for us. Zoe says, here we go. And then Lisa also says, hello there, Wayne. How are you?
Hey, Lisa. How do I see, or those things just come on your screen? I don't see them here.
Well, I'm monitoring all of the platforms that it's on. So some people are on YouTube, some are on Facebook, some are on Twitter. So
sounds good. I don't want to get more complicated than I already am. So
okay.
Anyway, thanks so much for setting this up, Zakia, and thank you and your mom and Zakia for coming. It was so great to have you there. You guys were troopers, and I learned a lot just from your questions and sharing it all with you. So let's go. You ask me questions. You tell me what you want me to do or say. I'm here and I'm yours.
Yeah. So I think one of the most eye-opening parts for me as a person who uses shea butter, we always hear about it's a quality ingredient, but we often miss the story behind the women in those communities who make it and the impact that is served from people actually buying handmade and not factory made shea butter. So can you talk a little bit about how Baraka Shea Butter came to be, and then that impact that is happening now because people like me, handcrafters all over that use the shea butter, how does that impact those families? Because I saw it firsthand and I'm going to share that. But for you, for someone who started it with Baraka Shea Butter, how did that come about?
It started. My wife Gifty is from northern Ghana and was wanting to make products with shea butter, and I was bringing shea butter for her, and the women were keen. They wanted and they was so interesting the way they come out, and they said, we're happy with all the help and support you can get, but really we just want to earn an income. We want the dignity of income. They had local words for it, but essentially, nobody wants charity. We all want to feel like we're contributing, and they're no different. And what's different is they were limited in some of their options to be able to contribute constructively to the economy, and so by buying shea butter and helping to market it, we give them the dignity of income. We give them the opportunity to earn, and so that's how we started in a small way, and I found that the story resonated, that people really liked the connection that Baraka had with the community, that authentic connection, and how we try and share and promote that, and let people know the impact that their purchases make, and so they can let their customers know the impact that their purchases make. So that's kind of how Baraka started, and how we work, and it's through amazing people like you and so many other customers that grab that and run with it and share it, that allows us to have more impact.
Yeah.
And it's really I see it as a virtuous circle, because the more we buy, the more impact in the community. The women take such pride in the quality of their work, and it gives people like you and others who make product a high quality product and a great story to tell their customers about.
Yeah, my story has changed drastically as a result of my trip in a very, very positive way. And so if we can start to talk about that shea butter making process. So for some of you who don't know, we went to Ghana for 2 weeks and we traveled quite a bit while we were there. We started in Accra, which is the capital of Ghana, and we went to Kumasi. I'm probably going to get them in the wrong order, so please help me with the names. We went to Kumasi was one of the places.
Do you want me to go, and then I can I can add in the sort of direction and where we went.
Yes, please do that, because I will butcher it horribly.
Well, that's okay. You heard me butcher Ghanaian names when I'm there, and I've been there for 20 years, so I should know that. But anyway, we started, and we literally started Zakia and family running on day one. We drove out towards Tema, which is a port city in Ghana, and we visited Georgina Kumsam and her amazing operation. She makes organic food products, and there's some. And Georgina was the person who worked with me to do our first major export import of shea butter. She works with a group of women in northern Ghana that produced our first shea butter.
Mm-hmm.
We went from there. The next day, you and your family went with the guide, stopped at the at the port, and toured that, and then I met you in Takoradi, which is about 5 hours west of Accra, and it's the center of the oil and gas industry for Ghana, and a lot of the mining takes place in the area to the north. We met with Kojo and Ava Coconut Oil, who supplies Baraka with coconut oil, and who also supports us in a lot of other ways. He's going to be doing the extraction for our combo butter, and Kojo is just amazing, an amazing story, and you can hear and see more about that. we left the next day to drive from Takoradi to Kumasi, but we drove up alongside the Kakun National Forest, and we went way into the bush, where into some cocoa farms, and where combo butter grows and combo trees, and I know if you go on, I think some of your sites on Baraka's Facebook page, you'll see posts and pictures of that. We overnighted in Kumasi, got up early the next day, and had a long drive to Wa, and that's where you and your family finally said, Wayne, sometimes girls would just like to stop and eat. We don't want to just drive for 8 or 10.
Drive. Yeah.
Anyway, and then we got to Wa. We spent 2 days in the communities, making shea butter, visiting the women's groups. Your mother was holding and kissing babies, and just
Pampers, all of the above. Yeah.
And you were busy, making shea butter, and we you gave away some of your product. The women were so thrilled with the product you gave away, and the lotion you brought, and the it said so much about you, the way you actually helped them with the lotion and rubbed it on their hands and everything. It just said so much about who you are and how humble you are, and how just what an amazing lady you are. That I still have that picture in my mind.
Yeah. Now, Wayne, I'm going to stop you because we are live, and I could let us just talk, but there are some questions, and this is a keen one, and I think it's critically important. Cran Wise on the Periscope side said, is it environmentally sustainable in their area to make it? And I know the answer to that question because of how the shea grows there. And then also there's another piece of sustainability that is so critically important. So if you want to touch on that, I think that would be really, really interesting for the audience to hear.
Oh, okay, great. Let me tell you the scary part first, is that climate change is changing rainfall patterns, and that one is sort of beyond the control there. But in terms of the sustainability on the factors that are controllable, the shea forest covers much of northern Ghana, and only a small portion of the seeds that fall are gathered, because many of them are just in areas where there aren't people to go and gather them. People walk to gather. Even in areas where it's heavily picked, you see the new trees coming up. You can't find all of the seeds, and everywhere you go, you saw that. You see the young new trees coming up. So that part is sustainable. There is the shea trees are an amazing hardwood, and they make charcoal, which is used for fire. So there's pressure on the shea forest to cut the trees for charcoal. The more shea butter people buy, the more economy that comes out of shea butter, the more it is back against that harvesting pressure. On the other side, on sustainability, there's literally nothing wasted. There's a hull on the seed, and that hull, after it's cracked and taken off, is used for fuel. The solids that are left behind in the processing when the oil separates are made into balls and used for fuel, and there's still shea oils in that. It's a different story. You talked before about how shea is made. 85% of handmade shea butter, of raw and unrefined shea butter, is actually made in factories. The seeds are taken from the community. All of the benefits from that point on are taken from the community. They go to industrial factories. They're extracted with chemicals and solvents, and the waste is just waste. It's not reused like it is in the handcrafted area.
Correct. And again, because it's reused, they even use, after they finish making the shea butter and they're taking it out of those pots after cooking it, that's then used for making fire later on, which is so nothing, absolutely nothing is going to waste in the handmade portion of it.
Yeah, yeah, all of the residual, and I mean that's it saves cutting trees. So the more that they're able to use that for fuel, the less pressure there is on living forests.
Exactly, exactly. So let's talk about the shea butter making process, because when Wayne said, Zakia, you can come to Ghana and actually learn how to make shea butter, I'm thinking I'm going to go snap a picture, kind of see everybody doing it. He had completely different plans, guys. So some of the pictures that you have seen where I was carrying the shea nuts on my head, those bowls that the women use are used throughout the entire process. So they start by carrying the shea nuts on their head to be washed, and they wash them 3 times, and then they lay them out into the sun so that they can dry. Now, trust me, Ghana sun, I know it's one sun, but it's a completely different type of heat, because I mean, it feels like they dry them in about 20 minutes, but it's a little bit longer than that. And then after that, they're bagged up into these bags, and then we then took them to the various communities where the women then do the entire shea butter process by hand, with the exception of one machine, which used to be done by hand. But before I keep going on to that, I do have to pause and see what you all are saying. Wow, there's a lot of people saying awesome information. Very knowledgeable about the shea butter process. Everyone's saying hello. Some people have friends in Tema. That would be Chicago Sally. If you have any questions at all about the shea butter process, how we ended up in Ghana, how you could potentially go to shea butter school, we'll have some information about that in a moment. And then we'll just keep going on that shea butter process. Do you guys have any questions at all right now that we can answer? I'm acting like you guys can actually respond. So I'm looking at the chat to see what you all are saying. No other questions. So after that, they bring them to a nut crusher, and that is a machine. But Wayne, that used to be a manual process, correct?
It is, and I hate that name. If there are any men out there, I'm sure anyone's the nut crusher. And anyway, yeah, and in some places they still do. They use a mortar and pestle, and you'll get a big one, and you'll have a group of women together, and they're pounding, and they crush it, and then they roast it, and then the next phase they do manually as well. So, but it takes a long time, and using the machines really allows the women to be more productive. And how we try and balance it is, from a production standpoint, can be much more efficient the more equipment you introduce. But as you introduce more equipment, you're taking benefits from the process and handing it over to equipment makers, and using it for equipment makers and operators and repairs, rather than leaving it with the women. So we really try and balance that to be able to leave behind as much as possible for the women and their families.
Yeah, absolutely. And so after they've gone through that machine, I won't give it its name at this point. People are laughing at the name, and several men are agreeing with you, Wayne. We have to get a new name for the machine. It just doesn't work out so well. Then they roast them. There are roasters. And are the roasters new as well? Was there a different way that they used to roast by hand? But it's still a manual process. It is a very manual process where they're manually turning, but they take such pride in it. Because they don't want the nuts to burn or the seeds to burn, so they roast it evenly by having it over a fire, and they're turning it. And you may have seen that in the blog, or we'll post some pictures later on. And they turn it for 5 minutes, and then they switch directions for another 5 minutes. Now, Wayne, what was the process before they had those roasters? I know you have a video on the Baraka page.
I do, and I'm just going to try and grab the link as we're going here. But they used to put it in big basins, and then they had a big stick, and they would sit over the fire, a hot burning fire, and smoke. And the women would have to literally stand there, and it was a lot of work to stir it so that it didn't burn. And you're always at risk of coals popping out, and you're inhaling smoke, and now with the roasters, which were made with local expertise and technology. We didn't invent them at all. We saw that somebody had developed one, and then with support actually from some of our customers and some of our own proceeds, we purchased roasters so that the women can do it. And now, instead of standing over the fire with this stick and inhaling smoke, they can literally sit back, turn the roaster, and have a baby on their back, or even I've seen them nursing as they turn it.
Yes, that was, and they did it while we were there, and I couldn't believe it. They were just a turning and turning. One lady, she had her baby strapped on her back, and then as she was telling me about Shea Butter soap, she was nursing, telling me the entire process on how to make African black soap. It was pretty incredible. So they've washed them, they've crushed them, they've roasted them. The next thing is they lay them out to cool after they take them out of the roaster. And then they take them for a second grind. And at that point, the oils are released from these shea nuts. And if it's really, really something marvelous to see how it goes from that seed to this really, really incredible. It looks like a really thick oil. And from that point, it's then time for whipping. And you guys have seen that picture of me bent over, and these women work with their shoulders, with their arms, with their backs, with their legs, and they manually whip it up. They add a little bit of water in there just to get it to the right consistency, but they're bent over the pots and they're whipping it, whipping it, whipping it. Now, mind you, this isn't in some air conditioned building, guys. This is in 95, 90-degree weather. And they're doing it, and they're taking so much pride in what it is that they're doing to get a really high quality product. So, Wayne, about the whipping part, there's some people saying, well, I need to get some of that 100% raw shea ASAP. That's what they're saying on the comments here. So, what was it like for you the first time that you saw the whipping of the shea butter? How was that for you?
It was really interesting to see how the rhythm and the sort of efficiency of their movements, because they literally make it look easy. It makes my back sore looking at it because they're bent, they're standing up, bent over, and their hands are working like a machine, and it's really efficient. And when I bend over and try it, it's like, I think I have trouble to chew bubble gum and walk at the same time. But I just could, my back would be sore and I would be bending and my hands weren't working right and people were laughing. But they are just so efficient at it, and they do it. They work hard. Generally, it's in groups where they're laughing and joking and everything with each other. If anyone wants, I've just put a link to the roaster video. But if you want to go to Baraka's website and go over on the top menu bar on the right, there's a section with videos. You can see videos on most of this stuff. And if you want the raw shea butter, you can order right from there as well. We ship next business day through all over the world.
Yeah. And so after the whipping, there's still some more to do. They have to then cook the shea butter, and they use, if you can imagine, traditional pots, like the old school pots, not like the fancy stoves that we have. There is a fire going underneath, and then they stand over it with a stick blender that would make most soap blenders blush. And what I mean by that, it's a really long stick, and they stand over it and they stir and stir. And then as the shea butter starts to congeal and come to the top, they scoop that off and then they sit it off to the side so it can cool, dry, and then they package it. So when Wayne mentioned the rhythm, there's like a rhythm that happens as you're standing out amongst the community. This isn't like, oh, we're going to just roast the nuts at this point. There's somebody doing something at every station. And as you look around, it kind of feels like you're in the middle of a song because that's what they're doing. It's somebody's roasting, somebody's spreading out, somebody's grinding, somebody's whipping, somebody's cooking. And it's all happening simultaneously in this community with women, children, all going around. And then there are some kids that they just try and find some things to do to keep themselves entertained if they're not in school. And so you hear some parents yelling, just like here, like, get over there. But it was really, really an amazing, amazing experience to watch. And I think for me, it was understanding before when I used shea butter, if there was just a little bit left on the spatula, oh, I'll let it go. But now I got to find something to do with that little piece. I can't just not or just wash it off in the sink because I have seen what it takes to make it. And I had a chance to actually share my soap with the women there. And then what they said was, oh yeah, keep buying more shea butter so we can keep making some and you can keep making your products. And that's where your saying comes from our hands to your hands. And now I'm back again.
Yeah, no, it was so great, and you guys were so easy to be there with. I mean, you were so interested and humble, and the women just loved you. You really had an easy way with it, and they're already sending messages asking when you're all coming back. So.
Yeah, they said, are you coming back? So we cannot have this video talking all about this shea butter because I described. Oh, go ahead, Wayne.
One thing, do you have the shea butter you made? Where do you have
where
the
I'm going? We cannot talk about this. My mom, my cousin, and myself came home with the shea butter that I was whipping, and we are going to unbox it right here, right now, for all of you to see. No, you cannot have any of this one, guys. It's very, very special. This will turn into some whipped body butter, some whipped lotion, some soap. I'll probably even put it in a sugar scrub, and it doesn't belong in a sugar scrub, but it has to go somewhere, right? So we are going to unbox this. Now, before I do that, let me check your comments because I hate to just keep going on a live stream and not respond to all of you. But we have over 97 people watching right now. Is this a seasonal? So Wayne, you can answer some of these questions as I'm opening. Some people said, how much is done, or what's the capacity for them to make in their community? Is this a seasonal thing or year round that they make the shea butter? That's a really good question, depending on the harvest season and all of that. So if you want to talk about that, I'm going to get my knife while you do that.
Oh, okay. So the shea fruit is seasonal. It happens once a year. You'll start to get blossoms starting more into December, January. The fruit starts to ripen and be ready late April, May, early June, and it falls from the tree, and it's picked and the nuts sorted and dried and ready. And once the nuts are there, they make shea butter year round. So there you can see the handprint on
It's
top.
in here. So guys, I don't know if you know this, but when the women package your shea butter, they actually put their handprint inside so you know that it was handcrafted. That's like a signature thing that they do. Now, my box is a little bit beat up because imagine traveling on a plane to Amsterdam, then from Accra to Amsterdam to Boston to Philadelphia. And you can't put this in your check bag. So this is what I made with my own two hands while look at that. Look at that. Do you guys see that? Let me see if we can cut it open. There's a lot of
While is doing that, sometimes the handprint is you have to look to see it because the shea sits. Sometimes it gets a little warm and melts, and when it's in the container, you have 20 tons of shea butter packed in the container, and it presses down on itself. But everyone has the energy of the handprint on it. Can we see your handprint on yours? Yeah, because this isn't the key. It was packaged by one of the ladies.
Yeah, but you can't see it, but you can just see that there's an indent in there. And guys, I just want you to see, this is not your average shea butter. It goes into your skin like butter, like butter. And that makes all the impact in the products that we make. The quality of it, and it has like a nice, soft, nutty aroma to it. But that comes from the shea seeds. And I'm rubbing.
It the key quality thing with shea butter, obviously straining it and making sure it's clean and consistent, but it's giving the women time to use their traditional knowledge. What we do is we don't pretend to know more about making shea butter than the women. They've been making it in their families for generations and generations and generations, and it had to be made well enough to survive for a year, 2 years in the heat on the edge of the Sahara. So they figured out how to do that. Those techniques evolved over time. What happens is so often, even on handmade, somebody is really pushing the women to go faster, do more, go faster, do more, and they don't get the time to really get all of the moisture out or to pay attention to quality. So we try to pay them a little more, a fair trade price, and to give them that space so that they can really own the quality and they can let the way their mothers and grandmothers and great grandmothers taught them, let that quality come through.
Yeah. And there was one question that came across that had to do with the color of shea butter. And you showed us that as we were driving around. A lot of people had questions about, well, should the shea butter be yellow? Should the shea butter be white? Should the shea butter be beige? So for all intents and purposes, can you talk a little bit about the color of shea butter?
Oh, okay. If somebody is selling you shea butter based on color, you're likely getting refined, which is white, or dyed shea butter, which is always yellow. Natural shea butter will go from an off-white to a yellowish to even sometimes with a greenish tinge to it. That has to do with the the mineral makeup of the soil. It has to do with the climatic conditions, when the rains came, how many rain, how much rain, the time. An early fruit sometimes is a different color than a later fruit. Fresh shea butter, freshly made shea butter is often more yellow than it is after a year or two. As shea butter gets old and deteriorates, it tends to get harder and whiter and crumblier, especially if it's not really well made. Right. But if and a lot have been conditioned that somehow yellow shea butter is better. So Zakia, you saw them. Even they were using a natural dye. It was a plant-based dye, but they were adding something to it. And I figure if you're making a product, you want to control what gets added to it. So from us, you will get shea butter, nothing more, nothing less, and then you can add what you want. If you want a color, throw color in.
Yeah. I think that's why I felt such an immediate connection to them. And I think I shared with you, there was a picture that you shared with the woman with her baby on her back. And I remember when I first started making my handmade products, my daughters were right there next to me. I have an exact picture holding Paige. And that handmade portion of it, where you take pride in what it is that you're making. You choose those ingredients, like that plant-based dye that they were using. The girl, she had to be about 14 or 15 years old. She's standing there with a machete and she's just cutting it up so that then she can pass it off to her mother, who then was using that mortar and pestle, and then she sprinkled truly a, a holistic experience. And I came back home with a sense of gratitude. There was just so much that I experienced in such a short period of time. Share it with both my mom and my cousin. It was truly, and it really helped to expand my knowledge on a lot of ingredients, because it wasn't just palm oil. We saw the combo butter with coconut oil. So all of these ingredients that I use, and I've read about with the people who actually man how they go through that. And I'm hoping to share more of on videos a little bit different from what you have seen before, because there's a connection, particularly with this shade. What questions you have, Christina? So much. Carla has said she has learned a lot as well. When you have people all over on Shea Butter.
You know, but you figure out how we can do it and actually have little instead of they can see you with Shea Butter.
Oh yeah. Butter's website, the live soaps for you all to see not only this process, but also saying, well, hey, I didn't know that. I would like to try unrefined. Get it from that I missed before.
About you and there was another amazing